Chapter 4 Chelsea. 3 weeks into the school year, and I've got my lunch routine down. If I bypass stopping at my locker and go straight to the cafeteria, I can secure a table for me, Jasmine, Nadine, and Isaac before it gets too crowded. Beef patty day is officially my favorite lunch, Isaac says, shoving his tray next to mine. Every lunch is your official favorite, I say, grabbing one of his onion rings. But I have to admit, this is pretty good. Jasmine and Nadine slide into our table with their trays. For the first 5 minutes, nobody says a word while we open milk cartons, apply heaping amounts of ketchup to our plates, and take our first bites. I'm always hungry, I say. My entire morning is spent looking at the clock and waiting for this moment right here. This is my favorite part of the day. Me too, Jasmine says. We can finally talk. So much is going on. Yeah, I know, Isaac says. How's your dad doing? I know how concerned Isaac is, but I also know that Jasmine doesn't want to talk about her dad all the time. She doesn't want to be known as the girl whose dad has cancer. He's fine, everything's fine, Jasmine says. Because I know when my mom was sick, it's not the same thing, okay? And everything is fine, she says again. I can see the hurt in her eyes, and I put my hand on her back. Isaac can't help but compare the situation to his own mom. He is always asking me what we could be doing for Jasmine. I wish I had an answer. The only thing I know to do now is to change the subject. Can we meet after clubs today? I blurt out, trying my best. I need a post poetry club support group. Sure, Nadine says. Let's grab dinner at Burger Heights. Does that work? She asks, eyeing Isaac and Jasmine. Yeah, that works for me. That'd be good, Jasmine says. Isaac nods that he's in. Welcome, young, brilliant poets, Miss Hawkins says, opening her door and ushering us inside. She welcomes us in the same sing-song fashion of every day of clubs. She is the guidance counselor slash social worker slash lover of poetry who has been our advisor since my freshman year. She really does love poetry in a deep way. The only real problem is that her love of poetry seems to have stopped accumulating in the 70s. Miss Hawkins was born in the 50s, and I only know that because she mentions it every other week when explaining why it's so important to look to our past and study our history in order for us to understand the work that's happening today. But we somehow never quite get to the work that's happening today. We all pile into her office, which is full of beanbag chairs and has two mini love seats, a round table with a few chairs, and posters of poets everywhere. There is one of Langston Hughes, Sylvia Plath, Phyllis Wheatley, and Allen Ginsberg. She has a quote by Audre Lorde on the back of her door that reads, "Poetry is not only dream and vision, it is the skeleton architecture of our lives. It lays the foundations for a future of change, a bridge across our fears of what has never been before." I love that. I love the thought that poetry can be in our bones, can hold us up and shape our whole lives. I've been writing since the 6th grade when my mom bought me a fancy gold journal that came with the smallest lock and key I'd ever seen. I wrote every day, and I've kept a journal since then, with poems about my pet goldfish, the weather, food, and most recently, love, heartbreak, and beauty, or lack thereof. I look around the room. There are 7 of us total, including 2 new freshmen who always seem ready to go, with their journals already out in front of them. The rest of us are sophomores and juniors, and one lone senior, my nemesis, Jacob Reiser. He's obsessed with forms like sonnets and sestinas. He's always answering every question and making sure we understand what he's doing in his poems. And he's always picking a fight with me, trying to push and get me to react. Sometimes I think it's flirting, but there's always an edge to it. Miss Hawkins loves him the most, and since it's the last year for both of them, with Miss Hawkins retiring, finally, and Jacob graduating, I'm pretty sure they're both going to weep when spring comes. I had hoped there would be more new people this year, but September is almost over, and it seems like poetry is destined to stay the lowest attended club at Amsterdam Heights. But, as Miss Hawkins always says, as long as I am here, and at least 2 of you, then we are considered an official club. I hope you brought your fresh minds and open hearts this afternoon, Miss Hawkins says, smiling wide. Let's get started, shall we? I am eager to continue getting to know you, so let's begin class today with the 6-word memoir introduction. Miss Hawkins has spent the last couple of weeks on identity, We wrote an Ars Poetica, which is kind of like a vision for how we want to live our lives. An I come from poem, and then wrote a poem about a food that represents us. Mine was about veggie patties from the Concourse Jamaican Bakery. They represent me because they're spicy, unexpected, and completely addictive. I thought it was hilarious, but no one laughed when I read it out loud. Get creative. Show me something the rest of us don't normally see, Miss Hawkins says. And for an example, I'll share my 6-word memoir first. Poetry is my heart and mind. There, see how easy it is? That's really original, I say under my breath, but loud enough for the freshmen to hear me. Neither of them laughs. Your turn, Miss Hawkins says. Show me who you really are. I look around to see if I can catch anyone's eyes, but they're already writing. I look at the blank page in front of me. I can't think of anything to write. I try out a bunch. Hearts and minds are my poetry. No, that's pretty much what I just made fun of Mrs. Hawkins. I am a big jerk sometimes. No, too obvious. From New York, likes to write? Yuck. Okay, time is up, Miss Hawkins says as her small timer buzzes. Who wants to share first? The two freshmen shoot their arms into the air, as if they've been waiting their whole lives for this moment. I roll my eyes, but then catch myself. Puerto Rico lullabies me to sleep. One of the freshmen, whose name is Maria, says first. Lovely, beautiful, Miss Hawkins says. It tells me something about where your heart is and shows who you are. I can't wait to hear more. Next, the class goes one after the other. Always dreaming of my next meal. We all laugh. High rise honey, NYC all day. Illusion is a concept I adore. I have no idea what that one even means. Born and raised in Washington Heights. And Boogie Down Bronx, my first love. Both solid. I look down at mine one more time. I'll go, Jacob says. For this assignment, I chose to do a haiku instead. He looks around the room. I really roll my eyes this time. A haiku, he continues, is a poem composed of 3 lines, each line containing a different number of syllables, 575 to be exact. Generally, haiku are focused on the small changes in nature. For example, I chose to do it my way. Here's mine. Whir of the subway. The doors open to my life. A train jets away. Oh, wow! These are just wonderful, Miss Hawkins says, standing up and moving to her whiteboard. Just wonderful and unique. I love them, and I know you will love our standout poets that we are going to study this year. I raise my hand. Miss Hawkins, I didn't go yet. Oh, my goodness, Chelsea! I'm so sorry I forgot you. And you are like an open book, so I know yours will reveal something. She smiles in my direction. So my 6-word memoir is Rages Against the Myth of Beauty. I look up at Miss Hawkins, ready for her to compliment my line. That is a good start, Chelsea, and I want to push you even more to take risks in your writing and think about the details, the specifics. You are a veteran in this group, so keep that in mind. But that is specific, I say, not meaning to start an argument, but annoyed that mine was the only one that got a critique. And it says something about what I want to push against in the world. I mean, I think that's the whole point of poets for peace and justice, right? That's why we're all here. I thought the club was called Peaceful Poets, Maria says, looking at her friend Amaya. It doesn't really make a difference what it's called, Jacob says. It's the poetry club. What? No, it matters, and it's called Poets for Peace and Justice because we want to use our art to disrupt society and push against what's happening in the world, I said. No, that's what you want. The only reason we came up with the name is because you pushed for it so much. No one except you calls it that anyway. I look up at Miss Hawkins, who looks uncomfortable and is writing on the dry erase board. Ladies and gentlemen, can we please focus on the writing activity for today? No fighting in the poetry club. She has written William Carlos Williams and Emily Dickinson on the board. I sigh loudly. Is there an issue, Chelsea? There's always an issue with Chelsea, Sonia Pierce says, leaning toward Jacob, her co-conspirator. No, there's no issue, I say, glaring at Sonia. It's just that I thought we could look at some more modern poets this year and think about how they are writing and how we can use those poems as models. No one says anything, so I keep going. I was thinking about the Nuyorican poets. I mean, we should definitely take a field trip downtown because we could do an open mic night or the Friday night slam and learn about Miguel Pinheiro and Miguel Agarin, or we could study the Black Arts movement. We do study that, Chelsea. Miss Hawkins interrupts, gesturing toward her books by Nikki Giovanni and Amiri Baraka. No, I know, but we could look at how they influence the work today, like the Dark Room Collective with Tracy K. Smith and Kevin Young. We could look at June Jordan's poetry for the people and think about how the work from the past informs the work today now that's happening currently, I add, to make sure I'm getting my point across. Well, you know what I say, Miss Hawkins cuts in. You have to know your history to even think about understanding your present. That's the whole point, Jacob says, sitting up in his seat. Clubs at Amsterdam Heights are about learning our history. We've learned it, I shout, surprising even myself. Sorry, I feel like we've been really pushing the classics in here. Because the classics are what define language and history. I understand how you feel, I say, lowering my voice just a little. But to be honest, I don't even know if I agree with all the classics anyway, especially considering that the canon, whatever that means, was created by white men who published other white men and basically kept women and people of color out of the conversation as long as possible. Oh, please, Jacob says, interrupting me for the second time. The classics are classics for a reason, okay? He says, reaching out his hands and holding onto my shoulders like he's trying to school me. Yeah, a racist reason. And by the way, stop talking over me, I say, staring directly at Jacob and pulling my arms away. Excuse me, Miss Hawkins says. I keep on. Unlike you and Sonia, I don't want to spend all my time writing super vague poems about forests and animals and pain, I say. I want to write poems that matter, that fight for something. So dramatic, Jacob says. And if you don't want to be part of the club or do the kind of work we're doing, then why are you even here? Jacob asks. Yeah, I don't know. You're right. I quit, I say, packing up my bags and stumbling as I gather my journal and drop a copy of Living Room by June Jordan that I was going to share with everybody. I pull my hat off the seat behind me. I can't believe I wore a floppy straw hat to school again. I can't believe I just quit. And most of all, I can't believe I just blew up in front of a bunch of people who are now going to spread the word that Chelsea Spencer has lost her freaking mind. And even more, I can't believe I still care so much about what everyone else thinks. Miss Hawkins, I'm sorry. I swing my backpack on and walk out. I make it as far as my locker before I burst into tears. So stupid, so stupid, so stupid, I whisper to myself. I hear a basketball bouncing behind me and I look up, panicked, since I didn't realize anyone was in the hallway. You okay? James Bradford is standing behind me. He's only the hottest guy in our class. At 6 feet tall, he's smiling down at me. I look up at his face, perfect teeth, perfect skin, and he's just started to grow his hair out and is wearing it in a short afro. Meanwhile, my skin is broken out everywhere, again, and I'm crying and carrying a journal full of 6-word memoirs. Not cool. Oh, I'm totally fine. I quit the Poets for Peace and Justice Club, I blurt out. There's a poetry club? James asks, starting to smile. That's cool. Yeah, it is cool, or it was cool. I mean, poetry is awesome. It's a way to rage against society, and I look up and see James laughing. Shut up, I say, pushing the basketball against his chest and walking away. My crush is the worst. No, it is cool. It's cool, Chelsea, he calls after me. See you in gym tomorrow. See Jim? That's actually cool. I smile to myself, but don't look back. He doesn't deserve it. But he knows we have gym together. Maybe he's even checking for me in gym class. I love it. I hate myself for loving it, but I love it just the same. When I get home, I collect all my 6-word memoirs and write one whole poem. None of it makes me feel any better. The poem is Rage Against the Myth of Beauty and will be recorded on the next PowerPoint slide.